the 21st century in America, the most popular way to celebrate fall is pumpkin spice. Starbucks ushered in this modern phenomena 17 years ago when they introduced the seasonal pumpkin spice latte. To make these maple glazed pumpkin spice scones, you will need 2 cups of flour, 1/2 cup of brown sugar, 2½ teaspoons of baking powder, 1 tablespoon of pumpkin pie spice, 1/4 teaspoon of cloves, 1/4 teaspoon of ginger, 1/2 teaspoon of salt. You'll also need 1/2 cup of very cold butter, 1/2 cup of heavy cream, 1 egg, 1/2 cup of drained canned pumpkin, and 1 teaspoon of vanilla. You'll also need a lined baking sheet lined with parchment, a cold glass mixing bowl that's been refrigerated, a dough scraper, and a pastry cutter. For your maple glaze, you'll need 3/4 cup of powdered sugar and a tablespoon of maple syrup. The first step in making pumpkin scones is really to drain your pumpkin. You'll be surprised how much liquid is in your 1/2 cup of pumpkin. I put mine in a piece of cheesecloth. I've left it over a bowl to kind of drain. You need to do this at least an hour before you start your scones. And then when your pumpkin is drained, you can see how much liquid has come out. Then we're ready to start mixing the ingredients. Okay, we're ready to mix up our scones. 2 cups of flour. I'm going to mix all the dry ingredients at this point. 1/2 cup of brown sugar, packed. 1/2 teaspoon of salt. 2½ teaspoons of baking powder. And our spices. With my whisk, I'm going to blend everything together. Next, you want your 1/2 cup of ice cold butter. I've had my butter cut in small pieces and in the freezer, so it's good and cold. And using my pastry cutter, the process is just cutting the butter into the flour and sugar and spice mixture until it's about the size of a pea. I couldn't make scones without a pastry cutter. It's really the best tool for this process. You can use 2 forks or even a food processor, but you'll more than likely overmix your mixture, and you'll be much happier if you use a pastry cutter. So our flour and sugar and spice mixture has been nicely blended. It's about the size of a pea, and it's ready now for us to add the liquid. I'm going to start with your 1/2 cup of thoroughly drained pumpkin. You saw how much liquid is hidden in that mixture. 1 beaten egg. I'm going to go ahead and add my vanilla now on top of the egg. And 1/2 cup of heavy cream. Now you want to bring this mixture to a dough fairly quickly, and you don't want to overwork it. So now, using your hand and working fairly quickly, you don't want to overwork this mixture. Bring it into a nice solid ball. Flour your board and turn your ball of dough onto the board. I'm going to be cutting this into 8 scones, which will then go onto the baking tray, brushed with cream and dusted with sugar, and then in the refrigerator for 15 minutes. Then it will go into a 400-degree preheated oven for 20 to 25 minutes. I've cut our beautiful scones into 8 beautiful triangles, transferring them onto the baking sheet, which will then go into the refrigerator before it goes into the oven. Our beautiful scones have been in the refrigerator, and they're almost ready to go into the oven for a bake for 20 to 25 minutes at 400 degrees. Just a quick dusting with some granulated sugar, or coarse sugar if you have it. And this is just to give a nice finish to the top of your scones. Now it's time for them to go into the oven. What's your 3/4 cup of powdered sugar? You don't need a lot of glaze for this recipe, Start by adding your tablespoon of maple syrup until you're happy with the consistency. I had to add a little extra cream to this glaze to get it to the right consistency. The maple syrup tablespoon wasn't quite enough, so this is the consistency I'm looking for. Our beautiful scones are out of the oven and they've cooled to room temperature, so I've started to glaze them with the maple glaze. They smell delicious. Maple glazed pumpkin spice scones. It's a taste and smell that's rooted in nostalgia, reminding us of Grandma's kitchen or holiday gatherings with family. These scones are better than Starbucks, and in our house, always a family favorite.